The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericavariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak. Are you interested in marriage, divorce, midlife dating? Keep it tuned right here for the next hour as Jim and his guest explore some fascinating and important topics. Now, here's your host, Jim Duzak.
Hello, I'm Jim Duzak. I'm a divorce lawyer and mediator, a columnist for ConnectionsForWomen.com and BoomerLiving.com, and the author of the book Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. At one time, I even owned a dating service. You can learn more about me if you'd like by visiting my website, www.attorneyatlove.com. This is not a call-in show, but I do love to hear from listeners. So if you have a question, a comment, or a suggestion, please email me at jim@attorneyatlove.com. I'll do my best to get back to you the same day. My guest today is Veronica Monet. That's spelled M-O-N-E-T. I think it's fair to say that Veronica is a woman with an unusual and fascinating background. For about 15 years, she was a highly sought-after, highly paid escort. After she retired from that career, she became a writer, a very good one, I might add. She wrote a book called Veronica Monet's Sex Secrets of Escorts, Tips from a Pro. Her blog pieces, which you can find on her website, www.sexwithoutshame.com, are well worth reading. And they deal with sex and sexuality in what I feel is an original and thought-provoking way. Veronica also has an active counseling practice. In fact, she's a certified sexologist and relationship expert. And she's a popular speaker, workshop leader, radio and TV guest, and is the host of her own internet radio show called The Shame-Free Zone. Veronica, welcome to Relationship Radio.
Wow. Do you want to be my press agent? That was a fabulous introduction.
Well, thank you for saying that, but you're an easy person to compliment. All I have to do is tell the truth.
Oh,
you really have, in all seriousness, you've got an amazing background, and I really, when I was saying about you being a good writer, the other day I was on your site for what I thought was going to be a half hour or so, just making sure I was covering all the bases. And 3 hours later, I find myself, still reading every one of your blog pieces going back about 3 years.
Oh, my.
I just got lost in it. I absolutely loved it, and I should have mentioned before that your book is published by Alpha Books, which is a division of the famous Penguin Books, and I think your publisher alone says something about the literary quality of your writing. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
I felt so lucky to get that first book through an East Coast publisher. That was such a...
Yeah, the publishing world is a crazy one, and if you have the marketing muscle of a big name behind you, that makes all the difference.
It really helps.
Yeah. Why don't we start at the beginning? How did you get into the escort business?
Well, I'm working on my memoir, and it's the subtitle. I'm thinking I may turn the subtitle into the title. Is A Life in Reverse. The interesting thing about my life, I learned to ride a motorcycle before I learned to ride a bicycle.
Uh-huh.
I learned to skin dive, in a wetsuit with weights and tanks.
Yeah.
Before I ever learned how to swim. And consequently, of course, when it comes to being an escort, same thing. I got the college diploma. I had 4 years clean and sober in a 12-step group, and I had worked 7 years in corporate America as started off as an office manager and then a department manager and became a marketing representative for a radio station. So that was my career path, and then I met a woman who was working as an escort, and I found her so fascinating and the lifestyle so intriguing that I crossed over. But
so you were in your, late 20s at that time?
29. I was almost 30.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that a lot of escorts are already contemplating retirement at that age.
That's a misnomer. Because it depends on what branch of the sex industry you're looking at. If you're looking at a stripper, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
A porn star, maybe. A street prostitute, definitely.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at indoor escorts, then they're probably just getting started. The vast majority of the women who work escorting as an independent escort, especially, they're like self-motivated, entrepreneurial type women, really do tend to get the college degree first and enough job experience that they get dissatisfied maybe with the glass ceiling and they start thinking, you know what, I want to go make some real money and work for myself. And so then this becomes a rather popular choice.
That certainly challenges some of the common stereotypes, doesn't it?
It also challenges our stereotypes about men.
Addict that's on the street corner, that kind of thing.
It challenges our stereotypes about men, too, because, almost everybody thinks men are shallow and they're just looking for young, empty-headed girls that they can take advantage of. And, that's just not been my experience. There's a lot of really amazing men who are looking for an intellectual challenge.
At the beginning, did you start off with some kind of agency where they would arrange the meetings for you?
My girlfriend.
Oh, it was just your girlfriend. So it was really
so I was working for her, and she was taking 40% of my income.
40%.
40%. It's more traditional to do 60-40, and you lose. The agency takes 60.
I was going to say, what's the, if you want to call it that, the industry standard in these things?
Yeah, 60-40 their favor.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And of course, you would get to keep any tips that there are, right?
I was having a romantic relationship with my boss, so I had everything running in my favor. I got to keep 60%. I got to decline work whenever I wanted to. I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. I didn't have to see anybody I didn't want to see. And most of the time, I was actually getting paid just to be romantic with her in front of somebody else.
Well, you've mentioned a couple of things there that are interesting, but one of them is you talked about declining work. I mean, I would think that that's the single scariest part of the whole profession, is what you would think of as probably the inability of some escorts to decline work. I mean, you don't know when you knock on that hotel room door whether it's a upper income businessman or some crazy guy with a gun who just held up a liquor store that day, right?
Actually, you do. You know a little bit more than that about people.
Uh-huh.
So this was the first lesson that I had to learn in the escorting industry, and this one is a little hard for people to wrap their minds around sometimes because our prevailing paradigm is that of logic and science.
Mm-hmm.
So you enter this, what is a female-dominated industry, and the sex industry, specifically escorting, I mean, it's not female-dominated if you're looking at porn. That's still male-dominated. The brothels in Nevada, male-dominated. But if you're looking at independent escorts, that's female-dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And so it runs on a different currency, if you will. So the first thing that I had to learn was that my intuition was going to be a huge asset. Now, I'm coming out of the academic background and the corporate background, and you don't use intuition on any of that. As a matter of fact, I had studied a lot of science that told me there was probably no such thing.
But you quickly had to learn some street smarts.
I quickly had to tap into the part of my femininity. The part of me that I feel like this culture has basically said has no value.
Mm-hmm.
And realize that actually it does have value. Not only is it there, but you can use it to safeguard your well-being.
So would you usually have a sixth sense about somebody the split second you saw him, like, oh, I better get out of here, or
it's more something that you would basically, you train yourself to do two things. Two things are vital if you're going to be really good at this. One, no drugs or alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you do drugs and alcohol, you certainly don't do it on the job.
Yeah.
Because that's okay. That's where you run into trouble. Now you don't have any intuition. Now you have made yourself chemically impaired.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to make some stupid decisions. But so remove drugs and alcohol from it. And the woman that I was working for was I've never seen her finish a glass of wine. So she wasn't like averse to having a glass of wine, but she did not have any problem with chemicals. She'd never done a drug in her life, and never finished a glass of wine. So she's just not that type of person. So I learned how to do it from somebody who was pretty straight-laced.
Was it just the two of you that were sort of working as partners and occasionally putting on what sounds like if you can use the term girl-on-girl show or something of that nature?
That's exactly right. It was just the two of us, and we were lovers, and she had a husband, and she had 3 kids, and she was about 8 years older than I. Huh. So it was very cozy. It was very comfortable. It was a lot of fun. And the advantage that I had by mentoring, her mentoring me was that for the first 9 months I worked for her, I got to see how she screened her clients. I got to see what her expectations were, what she would accept as appropriate behavior and what she would not accept. So she had boundaries. She's not taking all clients. She took the clients she liked, that she resonated with. And watching her handle the phones, watching her interact with clients, I learned a lot about the subtleties of how do you tell a good call from a bad call?
Yeah.
And how do you tell, sorry, but we were very interested in when we were getting cops to call.
Right.
So that became a real interesting thing. So I always say she taught me how to be safe in several different ways, how to use a condom, not just effectively, but erotically.
I see. This was back in, you're a native of Oregon, is it?
Huh?
Are you from the state of Oregon originally?
I am. I graduated from Oregon State University.
I see. And is that where you began this? I just wanted to get a sense.
No, actually it was down in San Jose, California.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I had been out of college, 22 is when I graduated, so I've been out of college for 7 years.
Mm-hmm. So you worked with this woman for about 9 months or so?
9 months, and I learned how to tell when there was somebody who was disingenuous on the other end of the phone, like, they were just basically wasting your time trying to get off while they're talking to you.
Yeah.
Somebody who didn't have the money, somebody who, just be able to tell the difference between that and also figure out who law enforcement is. So, and so much of that stuff, it's intuitive, which isn't to say that you aren't picking up cues, but it's not a logical process. It's more like I get a bad feeling or something doesn't feel right. That's how it registers in your brain. And usually we're trained to discount that and go, hey, well, it doesn't make sense, so I'm just going to go with the logical analysis of this situation. Yep. I learned how to value those gut feelings that were telling me,
Yep. We've got to take a short break, but we'll be right back with more insights from our guest, sex educator, counselor, author, and former escort, Veronica Monet. This is Relationship Radio, and I'm Jim Duzak.
Ask the experts. Call toll-free right now, 1-866-472-5787. And ask our all-star team to answer your question. That's 1-866-472-5787.
Thank you for calling.
VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
The latest business information is made simple with the Voice America Business Network. The professionals in the business world bring you live talk radio shows featuring an array of business topics, strategies for building wealth, sales and marketing, stock trading, investing, and business technology. Voice America Business hosts are professionals in their fields and bring to the airwaves weekly business discussions that offer up-to-date information, advice, and education. The Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business talk. Want to have behind-the-scenes access to some of the greatest minds of today? On Shift in Action, we feature leading-edge innovators who are building a more conscious, sustainable, and healthy culture. Host Stephen Dinan offers live shows with evolutionary leaders such as Deepak Chopra, Van Jones, and others who are creating new paradigms for conscious living. You can keep your finger on the pulse of the latest frontier work with our weekly transmission of Inspired Wisdom on Shift in Action, broadcast live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern Time on Voice America. Stimulating talk
gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 Internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Welcome back. We're talking today with certified sexologist, relationship expert, author, and former escort Veronica Monet. I want to mention her website once again, which is www.sexwithoutshame.com, and also the name of her book, Veronica Monet's Sex Secrets of Escorts, Tips from a Pro, which is published by Alpha Books, which is part of the Penguin Books empire. And I guess before too long, we're going to be seeing a memoir from Veronica, and I can't wait to read that. But
thank you.
You're welcome. But before the break, you were sort of finishing up on the first 9 months, I guess, of your career as an escort, where you were essentially working under the tutelage, if you will, of this older woman who had been in the business a while. But then I guess at some point you struck out on your own?
I did. I went independent, and that was really the ultimate objective anyway. The only thing was that I didn't think I was going to like this work. I thought I would probably just get in it for like a year, pay off some credit cards that had built up, because I was an honor student. They gave me every credit card under the sun, and then I maxed them all out. So I thought, well, I'm just going to pay off my credit cards, and then I'll quit. Mm-hmm. That's not what happened. Instead, I ended up really liking the work, especially when I started working for myself. When I was working for her...
60-40 split.
Yeah.
One thing, yeah. I was going to say no more. You don't have to split it 60-40 anymore.
Well, of course, that's the most obvious one. But actually, the part that was... perhaps most important to me was just being able to handpick my clients.
Oh, I see.
So at first I'm kind of, learning about it. I don't know what a good client is or a bad client is, and I certainly don't know what kind of client I prefer. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of a learning curve there, and you start to realize there's all kinds of men out there, and there's no reason that I can't make a decent living seeing only the ones that I like. Mm-hmm. So when I realized that, then, I was like, well, what kind of clients do I enjoy? And I realized that I really enjoyed people who were more focused on personal interaction, not so much on, just
quickie
how many kind of acrobatics you could do in the bedroom.
Yeah, and just to clarify this, were you, at this point in your career, were you doing this full-time, or did you still have your day job?
No, I was doing it full-time.
I'm just curious about this, not to interrupt your story, but how do you answer the questions that might be asked you of how you're able to afford a nice wardrobe and maybe a nice car and a nice apartment and all that when you don't seem to have any, visible means of support?
Well, here's another thing that my mentor taught me. She taught me how to pay my taxes. Mm-hmm. So from the very beginning, I went from being employed by a computer company and then a radio station to being on unemployment benefits while I was making this transition and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then when I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I didn't do unemployment anymore. I just started working and sending in my quarterly taxes. Mm-hmm. And it's really easy. The government loves to get money. So all you do is just, say, hi, here I am. I'm a small business, and here's your cut.
Gee.
So
this simple as that. So.
Well, it's very simple as that. And I actually got audited by the IRS about 10 years ago, and they found me by going to my escorting website, found out, where Veronica Monet lived, came knocking on my door and said, we want to audit you. And the whole thing, all they wanted to do was find out if I had declared all my income. So they came in, did a 45-minute audit, said, okay, looks like you have declared all your income, and thanks.
What kind of income are we talking about? Not necessarily on an annual basis, but what would a man be willing to pay for a night, a weekend, or however it was arranged?
When I started working out for my girlfriend, she was charging $200 an hour, and she thought that was all she could charge. And this woman was drop-dead gorgeous. She was a centerfold for a men's magazine, a beauty pageant winner, and yet she thought she was stuck at $200 an hour in 1989. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's silly. You got to be able to charge more than that. So I started experimenting with it. I went up to $250 as soon as I left her, and that was easy. And then from there,
no price resistance in this business. I started
raising my rates the older I got, so that in 2004, when I retired at $1,350 an hour.
An hour.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed that there were that many men who could afford it. Maybe a lot of guys would want to.
It's not that there's that many men who can afford it. And let's keep in mind, this is before the economy.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So it's before the economy. Right now, I understand that there are escorts who are doing 2-for-1s and special discounts for frequent flyer miles and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So the economy's affected everybody. But, I was very fortunate. The economy was booming while I was in the business, and it was just an upward spiral. I started off at mid-range rates and worked my way up to the high end. And I was traveling around the United States seeing clients for $15,000 a date, and a date usually was like 2 nights.
Sure. And they would somehow or other arrange for all the transportation ahead of time?
Oh yeah, the $15,000 was what I took home. On top of that, of course, was airfare, hotel, food, day spa, maybe shopping for clothes in a boutique. I used to like to go hang out at Escort and Gucci boutiques.
Sure. Was there actually a difference, with this different clientele you had? Were you offering more or simply getting paid more for the same services?
Offering something different. Different than what most people would think. Most people think that this is about sex, and sex is definitely part of the deal. Mm-hmm. Anybody who tells you they're out there making a 6-figure income not doing sex is probably lying. But it doesn't have to be the focus, and often it isn't. I had a client who had put me on a $50,000 retainer who didn't have sex with me. Most of my clients wanted to have sex with me, but it was a small portion of our time together. We spent our time in museums, Broadway plays, 5-star restaurants, having long, extended conversations, and it's just a much more intellectual pursuit. So we're talking about people who are not easily distracted with superficial things. They're looking for something deep and meaningful, and something that stimulates them on all levels.
Did some of your clients or any of your clients ever fall in love with you, a la Richard Gere in the movie and that kind of thing, or did you ever fall in love with a client?
Well, I had a client who I am pretty sure fell in love with me because he was absolutely devastated when he found out I was married, and I never lied about that. I was wearing my wedding ring everywhere I went. But he had flown me out to New York and put me up in the Benjamin Hotel, which is a beautiful hotel. It's right across the street from the Waldorf Astoria. There's marble and mahogany everywhere, and you get real leather desk, with real china in the kitchenette. It's amazing. Crystal in the bathroom. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I actually spent most of my days, I was there for 2 nights, and I spent the day in the day spa or shopping. And then we'd just spend about 12 hours in the evening from like 6 to midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my very first trip anywhere. And I got a check for $16,000, and he bought me a first-class ticket, and I cashed my first-class ticket in and bought a $3,000 dress.
And you were, at that time, a married woman, is that right?
I was, and I was in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And,
were you married during most of your career as an escort?
I was. I only worked as an escort single for about 2 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I was married or engaged for 13 years. So I spent most of my career with a husband.
Oh, I see.
And again, remember, my mentor was the same way. She was married, had 3 kids, lived in a nice house in the suburbs, and so did I.
How was your husband with all that?
He was not happy about it. When we first got engaged, I told him I would quit, and then shortly after that, a girlfriend of mine got married, and she continued to work, and I thought, what am I saying? I'm going to quit. I don't want to live on a reduced income. I want to continue to live on what I make. Mm-hmm. So I told him, I said, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to quit, and if you want to call off the wedding, I understand. Well, he chose not to call off the wedding, but he was very upset and really kind of made my life miserable for the next 2 years.
So it was a source of tension the entire time?
Oh, it was horrible. Lots of fights. And I'd go on TV shows, and he'd always say something rude about the TV show. It was just not at all supportive. And, he was a very unhappy man. Even though he loved me and he wanted to be there, he was not happy about what I was doing.
Well, I'm not sure how many guys, especially if they don't really have a background in that, can accept it. It's kind of...
Well, it's interesting. What I decided to do is to actually invite him to pretend to be a client of mine for an afternoon. So I gave him some cash, and I said, I want you to go outside, knock on the door, come in as a client, pay me, and I'll show you what it's like.
And what did he make of that?
He got all excited.
Did he role-play the thing?
It was going to be more fun than whatever he was having at home as my fiancé, because at the time he was still my fiancé. Or no, actually we were married. Excuse me. We were married at the time. But I think what he thought was that he was missing out on the good stuff. Mm-hmm. So he got all excited, and then when he realized that, well, I'm sorry, but I can't kiss you because, believe it or not, there are more germs in a person's mouth than there are on the other end of a human being.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm coming close proximity with a lot of people, and I would sooner kiss your nether regions than there, and I'm not going to do that unprotected, so I just can't.
Most escorts, I gather, I don't know really much about these things, but don't they refer to something called girlfriend experience, where it does involve a lot of kissing and hugging? And
see, another misnomer. Some girls offer, it's called GFE for short, girlfriend experience, GFE. Some girls offer that as in, they'll do a lot of things. They'll kiss you on the mouth. They may even have unprotected sex. Mm-hmm. But that's not what it means. You have to kind of find out what that means, because it's going to vary from woman to woman. What it really means is that you are going to show up with your whole heart and soul. You're going to be very attentive to this person's emotional needs. So I offered GFE.
So you were that without really calling it GFE.
No, I offered GFE. I advertised it as GFE. Everything,
Veronica, unfortunately, we've got to take another short break, but we'll be right back with more information and insights from our guest, sex educator, author, and former escort, Veronica Monet. This is Relationship Radio, and I'm Jim Duzak.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. That's it. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Owen Hodge Show. Are you ready for some football? Well, here it comes. The Owen Hodge Show is bringing you the funniest hour in sports talk radio. This action-packed show is hosted by the outspoken fullback, Big Hodge, and the knowledgeable defensive back, Odie. This show will focus on the NFL, but touch on all things sports. Owen Hodge will provide you with a true player's perspective that'll give you insight, make you think, and definitely make you laugh. Owen Hodge have accumulated 6 championship rings, so obviously they know things. Check out the Owen Hodge Show at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Voice America Sports Network. The Owen Hodge Show. Owen Hodge Show.
Are you ready to grow your business? Listen for the Independent Business Owners Show with your coach, Rick Corrado. This entertaining talk radio program will bring you the tools to help increase your business. You'll learn sales success, time management, lead generation, business development, life balance, and much more. Rick Corrado is here to help you take your business to the next level. Listen for the Independent Business Owners Show, heard live every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Network. Streaming live, the leader in Internet talk radio, VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
We're back with Veronica Monet, counselor, author, and former escort, and the author of Veronica Monet's 6 Secrets of Escorts, Tips from a Pro. We've been talking about all kinds of things having to do with the escort business, and one thing, Veronica, that seems fascinating to me is that, or maybe it's an eye-opening experience, and in that, how many people must lead double lives, out there in the world. In other words, things aren't always as they seem, are they?
Well, on both sides of this equation, actually, because, being who I am, I get to hear all the secrets on both sides. So I go and speak at a college or a university, and a student will come up and tell me that she's working as an escort to pay her college tuition, or I, maybe meet a therapist or a nurse who happens to be working as an escort on the side, school teachers working as escorts on the side. So it's actually fairly common a way for people to supplement their income. And then when it comes to the clients, of course, I've had police officers as clients, doctors as clients, lawyers as clients, and even religious leaders, like rabbis and priests and ministers.
Would you, from what you could tell, are these particularly the married men that you had as clients? Did they typically not have a sex life at home with their wives, or were they, on paper, reasonably or should have been reasonably satisfied, but we're just looking for some extra something on the side?
It's a lot of different individuals out there with a lot of different motivations, but by and large, this idea that men are looking for something that is, like the term is, looking for some strange, right? There's a few guys who fit into that category, but the vast majority of men who see providers actually will find one or two that they really like, and they will see the same ones over and over and over again for years. I had a lot of the same clients for 12, some 14 years of the entire extent of my career. So, which belies this whole idea that men don't want to be in a relationship, an extended relationship. They actually do. The vast majority of men really want a relationship, and I can tell you, it was a big shock to me. I thought they're just here to have a particular sex act, to get some kind of a stress release or a physical release, and boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. It is much more about psychology and emotions And I have a joke that I tell actually when I speak to the colleges. I say, a street prostitute will complain that all her clients want to do is talk. And she wishes that they would shut up so that she could hurry up and get them off and get them gone so she can get to that next client. The girl who's working indoors has finally figured out that it really doesn't matter if they're going to have sex or not. She's getting paid by the hour, so they can do whatever they want during that hour, and she's going to find that she's going to spend a lot of time talking to these men. And by the time you've really realized that what men really want is to have a woman they can have an honest conversation with in the context of also hopefully having some sexual contact, that it's a package deal, that men are not as simplistic and superficial as we have written them off to be, that they're actually very complex creatures with some very complex needs and desires. If you figure that out, then you become a courtesan. And the courtesan is mostly selling her intelligence.
I see. And so for that reason, a courtesan can last longer in the business, so to speak.
A courtesan charges an enormous amount of money and sees a very select few men. And she will probably see those men for the rest of her life. So it's much more complex than most people give it credit for. And again, I, like everybody else, thought I knew what it was about. Once I got into it, it was a big education for me. And to find out that men actually have a lot of the same desires that we attribute towards women of wanting emotional connection. I can remember so many clients are like, it's like they want to feel special, they want to feel important, and that's the main reason they're there. Also, a lot of times, this is another thing that I have noticed, while women may go to see a therapist and they may go to see their priest, a man is more likely to go see his provider.
That's very interesting. I said in my own book, I did not write about anything about escorts, but I did have a chapter in my book about affairs. And I said that when people have affairs, they're usually looking for a lot more than just sex, that they're looking for attention, affection, respect, and the excitement of feeling truly alive, that kind of thing. And I guess it certainly can extend to a provider.
Well, it does. It absolutely does.
So like mini affairs in a way.
There's always going to be a few people out there who are just trying to do the girl in the office, and they don't even care to see her again, or somebody who just wants to see as many blondes, redheads, and brunettes as they can. And somebody like Governor Elliot Spitzer comes to mind. He shops for providers like somebody would order pizza. He's interested in a hair color. So that's fine. There are people like that. But most of us who end up taking on escorting as a profession and stay in it for any length of time are going to find that the bulk of our business comes from what we call regulars. Mm-hmm. And regulars, the word itself tells it all, that they're going to come see you over and over and over and over and over again. So if they're all about, I need some variety and I can't have sex with the same woman every night, well, that's not really making sense, is it?
Right. They're just substituting one other woman for the original one. So.
And you asked me about what's going on in the marriage, and I found that there were a couple of things. One was the guy, I will never forget this one guy who had an open marriage. He had just had a sexual interaction with his wife that week where they invited another beautiful woman into their bedroom. Mm-hmm. And that was the kind of relationship that he had with his wife, was that he could have sex with anybody he wanted as long as he told her about it first.
Yeah. In theory, she could too, but she probably wasn't.
No, I don't know if she was or wasn't, but that was supposedly the arrangement that they had. Now, I said, well, does she know about me? And he goes, no. And I go, well, I don't get it. I said, you're living every man's wet dream. Every man would love to have a bisexual, beautiful wife who says you can have sex with anybody you want. All you have to do is
tell me about it.
Tell me about it. I mean, for God's sake, most guys would probably give their left you-know-what for that. So, and he said, yeah, but I like knowing that I can do something she doesn't know about. I was like, oh, my God, you are so petty and immature.
Secret, the danger and all that, yeah.
Yeah, but so, yes, he's a jerk, but the vast majority of the guys, they were all about how much they loved their wives, how beautiful their wives were, how they wished their wives were still interested in sex. And I heard that so much that I started to think we've got some kind of an epidemic of, compromised libidos for wives out there. And it seemed like a lot of it coincided with childbirth, weight gain, just kind of like a compromising of the health of the women just weren't as interested in sex, or I don't know, maybe they just figured out that every time they had sex they got pregnant and they didn't want to get pregnant again.
You spoke a few minutes ago about how you were in the, let's say, the branch of the business where you could have, if you had wanted to, you could have kept going indefinitely because you were providing a certain type of service to people that didn't require that you be a hard-bodied 22-year-old. And yet at some point you did retire from the business. I'm wondering, were you just in need of a change, or was it getting kind of wearing on you?
I'll tell you what was wearing on me was law enforcement. I had gotten audited. I'd gotten arrested. They'd evicted me from the apartment that I was working in a high-rise, and I had a home, so it wasn't like I was homeless, but it was still just too much trauma. Too much drama and too much trauma. And it was just like, I was, okay, I've got to, choose here. Am I going to continue to do the public stuff and do the radio interviews and the television interviews, or am I, going to continue in this? Because obviously they didn't like the fact that I've got a big mouth and that I'm trying to work for sex workers' rights out there. And I made a decision. I thought, well, I've been doing this for a long time, and I really want to write a book. And I know that the book is going to pay about what I could make in a weekend as an escort. So I'm never going to have any incentive to take...
Yeah, unless you're Stephen King or someone like that, nobody gets rich from writing books.
Right. So they paid me $15,000 for my first book, which, like I told you, I could make in 2 days. And I was, it was kind of horrifying, and it took 4 months to write it. So it's like, wow. And when I say 4 months to write it, I mean...
And that's pretty impressive if you could do that in 4 months.
I did, but I treated it like a job. I was up every morning and at my desk by 8 o'clock, and I wrote until lunch, took a half hour for lunch, and went right back and, wrote again until 5 o'clock. I treated it like a regular desk job. And every week I would check my word count to see if I was even coming close. And I was working off a formula to make sure I had to have so many words in by certain dates. So
by the time you left the business, were you still married? You're divorced now, right?
I am. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it was basically, it was all a decision to change my whole life. I decided I'm going to get a divorce because we were having some problems. I am going to quit this profession and start a new one because that was my life's
You're going to reinvent yourself. Well, listen, we've got to take one more break, but we will be back for some more fascinating talk with Veronica Monet. This is Relationship Radio, and I'm Jim Duzak.
Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Total career success. What does it mean to you? Voice America presents a radio program dedicated to help you achieve your career goal. Even in times of economic uncertainty, you can achieve your financial goals. Whether you're a college grad, new in the working environment, or a top-level executive, you will benefit from the practical and proven advice on job search and career advancement. Join Ken and Cheryl Dawson every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern for Total Career Success on Voice America.
Wake up with a unique daily show. Listen for Mitchell John in the morning. Mitchell will bring you news, sports, and stock news from yesterday. You'll hear interviews from high-profile figures from the world of sports, entertainment, politics, and authors. Mitchell will talk to people throughout America. This is a show that throws right down the center. It's fun, information, and yes, even a little bit of music. Catch Mitchell John in the morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Time, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Voice America, and Thursdays on the Voice America Business Network.
The Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Welcome back. We've been talking today with certified sexologist, relationship expert, author, and former escort Veronica Monet. I'm going to mention her website one more time, sexwithoutshame.com, and her book, Veronica Monet's Sex Secrets of Escorts, Tips from a Pro. Before we went into break, Veronica, you were telling us about how you felt that for a variety of reasons you were looking to make kind of a clean break with your past, and to use my expression, you were reinventing yourself. And since then, you've certainly created an interesting second career, and maybe you can tell us about some of the things that you're doing and you're involved with. I know you're a certified sexologist, but I'm not really sure what that is and how you become one. Can you tell us?
Well, I'd be happy to explain it. First of all, let's reframe that. I wouldn't say I made a clean break. I would say that I quit working as an escort.
Oh, that's
because I got tired of being on the wrong side of the law. That was the biggest reason right there. And then the second reason was I knew that as long as I was kicking a six-figure income, I wasn't going to sit down to write my first book. Mm-hmm. So I sold the home and, moved into the mountains and found myself a nice little writer's retreat, a little cabin in the woods. It's perfect for writing books and doing internet radio and whatnot. So, but I absolutely embrace my past. I love the fact that as a sex educator and a sexologist, I not only have 5 times the academic training most medical doctors have around sexuality, but I've got all those years and years of hands-on experience. So when I talk to somebody about how to use a condom in a way that's really hot and sexy, I'm not just reading a book to them, nor am I just quoting something I learned in a classroom. I can actually tell them, when you're doing this, you want to do that, and this is what works. I can even tell people, hey, you may have read this, but that's not quite true. This is what it actually comes down to in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you have to get some additional training to be a sexologist?
Huh?
Did you have to get some academic training? I'm wondering
I did.
I did
a coursework through something called San Francisco Sex Information,
mm-hmm.
and that certified me as a sex educator through SFISI. And then I took what I had done and all the training that I got through there to the American College of Sexologists, and I got certified through there because they were impressed with all of my credentials and everything I had done up to that point. And then I also had some letters of reference from some really nice people like Annie Sprinkle, who's got a Ph.D. in sexuality, and Dr. Philip Zimbardo from Stanford University.
Is what you do as a sexologist, is it mostly one-on-one type counseling, or is it group workshops and lectures? Or
all of the above. And really, just to tell you, a sexologist is somebody who studies sex. So I suppose really when it comes to the practice of what I do, it's probably the sex educator thing that I'm doing more of. But I really just as I did when I was an escort, I had a holistic approach towards people. I wasn't just, playing with their genitals. I was working with their hearts and their minds and sometimes their souls. And I do the same thing now. It's a holistic thing. So I offer something called relationship repair, where I help people work on relationship dynamics that it does a big number on your sex life. And basically I work from the standpoint that you have got to create both connection, and you only get connection through communication, and compassion. And you've got to know how to communicate in a fashion that creates that compassion. And most people have, learned how to speak with the word you. You this, you that, and as soon as you say the word you've lost your audience. Mm-hmm. Because that person has puts up their walls to say, what did I do? And how can I defend myself? And what am I going to say when you stop talking? So, it's much better to start off with an I statement. I feel. And you don't want to say, I feel like you are a jerk.
Right, then you're, right.
You want to stick with basic emotions. I feel sad, I feel lonely, I
feel attacked or whatever. Yeah.
But no, stay away from the word attack. There's an implication there that I'm attacking you.
Yeah.
Do you want to say, I feel afraid? Well, then your partner, if they still love you, is probably going to be touched. It's like, oh, you're afraid? What are you afraid of? And it actually takes quite a bit of training. I've worked with a lot of couples who've taken tons and tons of coursework. They've gone through High and Landmark and all this, and they still don't get the I feel thing. So, so it takes a lot of work, and I have practiced this in my own marriage. And although I divorced in 2004, I'm actually still very good friends and sometimes lovers with my ex-husband. So, as a matter of fact, he's here today visiting. So,
hey, if it works for the two of you.
We have known each other for 27 years, and there is a connection there that is just beautiful. And what's great about it is that since we're not locked into any assumptions about what our life should look like, we've been able to use the tools that we have for connection and coping and communication to grow, no matter what. No matter what happens, no matter what either one of us is doing, what course our life is taking, we still continue to grow deeper in feelings of love towards each other.
I've been eager to ask you a question about monogamy. Does the fact that you've been with literally, I guess, hundreds and hundreds of men over the years make you want to be monogamous finally, or is sexual variety a crucial part of who you are?
Yeah, 1,869 clients when I would put the book to paper, by the way.
Sure.
What effect does it have? It's going to have a different effect on different people, but for me personally, it made me actually more committed to working through issues with my ex-husband. I don't look at him as, is he my husband or my ex-husband? He's just a soulmate that I care very deeply for, and my best friend. Mm-hmm. And right now we live apart, and our lifestyles are very different, and that's just fine. We still really enjoy each other's company. So here's how it boiled down to for me is amazing men, millionaires, billionaires, men on the cover of Forbes magazine. I mostly hung out with that crowd, so kind of East Coast sensibilities. Just, working on a cure for cancer kind of guys, all right? Mm-hmm. And who treat me like I am a queen. Just, nothing that they couldn't possibly do for me. And yet, I couldn't wait to get home to tell my best friend about the date.
I was going to ask you, as you were saying that, is there anything that compensates for that type of ego gratification? Well,
being in love, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no comparison. So, I'm a romantic at heart. Yeah, I totally embrace the idea of polyamory. During this divorce, I have dated younger men. I thought I was in love for a while. Talked to my ex about could we arrange to have like a triad, like an open relationship, and he said, well, we can try it. He dated for a while. Now we both have kind of gotten bored with the prospects of dating. We're really enjoying spending time with each other again. So I have a real fluid approach to life, and I'm happy to do what's in front of me and not really try to tell myself that I am this or I am that. I'm also bisexual, but I tend to date mostly men. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, I take a female lover. I don't have any expectations on that or limitations. It seems like people are so fear-based that they need to know.
Right.
Am I monogamous or am I polyamorous? Am I a lesbian or am I gay or am I bisexual? And I, as a sexologist, I'm more interested in teaching people to get away from shame.
Yep.
And allow yourself to have
hate to interrupt you, Veronica, but we've got to go right now. I wish we had another hour to keep talking some more, but let me tell you, you are living what I call an authentic life, a life that makes sense for you. So happy that you were on the show. We'll be back next Friday, May 29th at the same time. Until then, have a great holiday weekend and spread some love around. I'm Jim Duzak. Goodbye for now.
Thanks again for joining us this week on Relationship Radio with Jim Duzak. Please join us again next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on Voice America. Have a great weekend.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericavariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in